Good evening, everyone. So today we are going to be talking about a lesson for the cell structure and what that cell structure looks like for the kids learning about it. The first part of this is the standard that we're going to be using. So the standard is, oh gosh, I thought I had this all figured out and I thought I had memorized by now, but I don't. So it's 6.ls1.2, so it's 6th grade standard. It develop and use a model to describe the function of a cell as a whole and the ways parts of the cells contribute to the function. So with this, we are going to get into the 5E part of it. I said this was an inquiry structure because I still am there helping the students. I still have the students certain boundaries that they have to stay within and certain questions that they need to be able to answer. So first is the engage phase, and with this phase I'm just going to be able to do a Kahoot quiz. I found this Kahoot quiz actually on Generator Genius. I really loved this website. It was so much help. It gives me a lot of information and a lot of different contexts that I could use for this, but I'm going to show you that a little later on in the presentation. So the Kahoot phase will just help you understand where each student is, and it's a great way to get the students. Students love Kahoot quizzes. So it's just a great way to get them engaged and get them thinking about what their next lesson is about. I would do this probably after the day before you start the explore phase, so you have an idea of where the students are, and maybe it will help you make the groups. So the next day is your explore phase. This is going to be a little bit of work for you as the teacher. You're going to make pre-made slides of an onion, a leaf, and your own cheek cell. Maybe you can have the kids do that one if you want to take the time to let them do it. I was just thinking more pre-making them so the slides don't break and you're not wasting time in the classroom. So just some things to think about on what you want to do. If you want them to make the slides, you can do that too. You'll just have to peel back a layer of the onion. Is how you make that slide, and just put it between two slides. So you're going to need the slides, you're going to need an onion, you're going to need a leaf, you're going to need your own cells, and you're going to need a microscope for this part of it. Put the kids into groups of 4. Preferably put your gifted and talented students together. So because some of their stuff is a little bit more detailed than the rest of the classes. Then your ELL students, I would make sure they're a mixture in there, and then I put my special ed students with people in the classroom that I find responsible enough and has the patience for these kids. And as the teacher, you should always be walking around and observing and making sure that these kids are on track and that they don't need any help and they're not getting frustrated with anything that they're doing. With that, so you start the explore phase. They should take a pen or pencil. If they all have Chromebooks, they could do this on a Google Doc so they can go back and look at it. They need to draw a picture of what they see of each cell, identify what they think it is, identify what the differences are between the 3, because the onion cell is, yes, a plant cell, but it does not have a green chloroplast in it, so it's different than the leaf cell. And then obviously our cell is not a plant cell, it's an animal cell, so it looks completely different from the leaf and the onion cell. And they need to start seeing those differences within this. As the teacher, walk around the classroom, ask them questions, ask them what they're seeing, ask them why they think that things are different. This way it gives you an idea of where each student is and where each group is and if they're on task. After they have done this, then you go into the explain phase. Let the students sit down and talk about what they saw, why they thought things were different. For the ELL student, let them draw what they saw or just show their picture. The special ed students, same thing. Let them show. At the end, I let the gifted and talented people kind of explain more and what they are more thinking, just to kind of get them that they're kind of teaching kind of way. Then after you start into that, we go into the explain phase, which we're already in. And after we've talked about it and we've talked about what we think it is, I have this great little video from Generator Genius that I'm going to show about 30 seconds of the first part of it just so you get an idea of it. So I'm going to flip my camera around. Zoom wasn't working. Yay that. So this is Generator Genius. It has discussion questions. It has the vocabulary, the reading material, tells you what you're going to need for all your activity guides, your lesson plan. So it actually comes in here, shows you the standard that it's working with and the science and engineering projects. Also with the Explore phase, you will be using the cross-cutting idea because they're going to be drawing the model of the cell that they're seeing. But it does go through engage, explore, explain, elaborate, evaluate, and extension. I'm not quite sure what extension is, but I did not copy and paste this because I did not like everything that they used, but for the most part, I really love this website and will definitely use it inside of my classroom one day. So it just gives the Google Forms, the online quiz PDF, and an exit ticket. The online quiz is the Kahoot, so you just click on that and then give the students their code. But here's the first about 30 seconds.
Today on the Lab Report, we will learn that all living things are made of cells. Plant and animal cells have parts called organelles that help them function and stay organized. And we will learn about the function of the nucleus, the cell wall, cell membrane, mitochondria, chloroplast, vacuole, and lysosome.
Okay, that's just about the first 5 seconds of that. Go through that, let them watch that, let them have a great time with it, come back, talk about it, make sure they have an understanding of what they are doing in this. Then for the exit ticket here, just to see where the kids are before you go onto the elaborate page, just to make sure that everybody's on the same page, there are a few questions that they need to answer, and this will just give you a great idea where each student is. So list the four different types of organelles and their functions. What is the difference between a cell membrane and a cell wall? And then list two differences between a plant cell and an animal cell. Whenever you can look over that before you come into the class, so you can hit on some key points before you start the elaborate phase with the kids. For the elaborate phase, I find this one really fun. You can do this in two different ways. You can remake all the gelatin already in a mold for the kids, or you can let them do this on their own at home with a partner or by themselves. This just kind of depends on how much time and effort you want to put into this and what you want the kids to actually do. In my lesson, I talked about how I would pre-make the gelatin and give them the mold already. Then you take random items inside your classroom, maybe something that you can find from home or the kids want to bring from home, and they need to be making the different organelles inside of the cell. This will help the kids understand the texture of each organelle, the size of each organelle, and that they just know that the organelles are inside the cell. I found this really fun and exciting for the kids that they got to make their own model. This goes with the science practices part of the standard because they'll be building it and exploring more into it. Because the cross-cutting part of it was looking under the microscope, and then you had the discipline core, which was the part of this standard that they were learning all the vocab, which was explained, so the science practices, and this is building the model. Then we have the evaluate phase, and I came up with this cool little idea that I would have the students write a story as if they were giving a tour of the factory of the cell. So they have to talk about how they would get in and out of the cell because of the cell wall or the cell membrane, depending on if they decide to do a plant or an animal cell. The different organelles would end in there. They have to explain what every organelle does, how they would get through the cell, through the cytoplasm. And so this way they're telling me what's in the cell, the organelles that's in the cell, the function of the organelles, and it kind of explains the texture part that the video actually went over. So that would be their formal assessment that you would be able to do because it combines all the stuff together. One other thing that this lesson contains is it talks about the DNA because that's where our DNA stays inside of our cell, and you can kind of go over how important their DNA is to them and their health, so you're hitting a health standard too. So that's really fun. They should add that into their assessment. Maybe like they gave a tour and this is where our DNA made. Put the importance of the DNA inside their paper too. So you hit all the components in your assessment. This was a fun lesson to do. Reminder with your ELL students, make sure you give them like the instructions that they're doing beforehand so they can read it, comprehend it, and come to class ready. So that's what I do. So thank you guys so much, and I hope that one day you guys can use this in your own classroom. Good night.